Jacob shall take root, he shall blossom, and Israel shall flower, and fill the whole world with produce. Hello everyone, this is Gilgamesh, and we are continuing Isaiah chapter 27. This is the last chapter in the section known as the Apocalypse of Isaiah, and this is our second portion of that chapter. I covered the first verse in a different video because it's really just not related to the rest of the chapter. Today we will talk about the story of the vineyard, which will cover verses 2 through 6. Then we'll have another video later that will cover verses 7 through 11, where we talk about the throwing down of a false altar, and then verses 12 to 13, where we talk about the gathering and the return. Starting in verse 2, we have again the phrase, "in that day." This probably indicates that this is a new section that is beginning here. And since it also doesn't seem to have anything to do with Leviathan, it seems pretty clear that we are starting a new theme or a new poem at this point in the text. We'll see a total of 4 places in this chapter where this phrase or a close variation on it appears, and each seems to indicate a change of focus. So we start here in verse 2, "In that day, a pleasant vineyard, sing of her. I am the Lord, her keeper. Every moment I water her, lest anyone visit her. Night and day I keep her." So we say here a pleasant vineyard or a lovely vineyard. This reminds us immediately of the parable or song of the vineyard that was back in chapter 5 of Isaiah. In both of these cases, the vineyard is the people of Israel, and it appears that Isaiah is the one who originated this metaphor of the vineyard being the people of Israel. Now, the Hebrew here says the pleasant or delightful vineyard or the beautiful vineyard. However, it is not entirely certain that that's what's going on here. There are several medieval manuscripts that read this as Herem Kemer, which would mean vineyard of wine, which would make a lot of sense. If that's the case, it's another example where the letters Dalet and Resh, or the letters D and R, have gotten mixed up. They look very similar and possibly were interchanged by a scribal mistake. I think that I am more persuaded to call it a vineyard of wine rather than the pleasant vineyard, but the traditional text does read pleasant vineyard. Now, the word here for keeper means a protector, and is one of the words that we had in the last chapter when we said that the Lord was the keeper or protector of peace. And he says he is keeping her and watering her lest anyone should visit her. This word, which means to give attention to, and can be for positive or negative reasons. It is also the verb that we just used about Leviathan in verse 1, that he would visit Leviathan, giving a good example of its negative usage. However, we've also had it in many of the surrounding verses as well. It's a fairly common word. But verse 3 could possibly be read as a chiasm as well, as we have here her keeper and I keep her as the beginning and end of a possible chiastic structure. This would put every moment parallel with night and day. That seems to work reasonably well. But then it puts I water her, lest anyone visit her in the middle. That could be possible, but it seems a weaker correlation than some other candidates. So I would put this as a weak possibility of an intentional chiasm here. As we move on to verse 4, it says, "Wrath I have not. Who would give me thorns and briers in battle? I march in her. I burn her together." For some reason, the Lord is saying that he does not have any wrath and is asking who is it that's going to be giving him thorns and briers to battle him. Now, this word for thorns and briers we've discussed a couple of times. The Hebrew is shamir and shayit, that has this nice alliteration to it. The traditional text has no conjunction here, but the Dead Sea Scrolls and several other sources do, and possibly that's correct. But again, we have these symbols of weeds that require battle to overcome. The idea of going to physical battle against weeds. And these words are somewhat unique words here that Isaiah employs. We're not sure precisely what kinds of weeds these are, but they do seem to represent some sort of an active force of evil. And he's talking about them invading his vineyard here, and he goes marching through her. Note that it does not say them, as some translations have. It is a feminine singular here, and it's a little unclear what the antecedent is. Both the words for the weeds are masculine. Battle is feminine, but I don't know that that makes a lot of sense here that he's marching in her, meaning the battle. But the other possibility here is the word for vineyard is feminine, and that seems like that is most likely the case. He is marching in the vineyard. And that also means that he is going to burn the vineyard together. This seems to be that he is going to be burning out the thorns that have been set in battle against him to protect the vineyard, is how I would read this. But it is a little bit interesting in its wording there, that it does sound almost like he's saying he will burn the vineyard. But he has these thorns and briars that are being set against him as battle opponents inside the vineyard, and he goes marching forward and burning them. Takes us to verse 5. Or he will seize upon my mountain stronghold. He will make peace with me. Peace will he make with me. So the he in this verse could refer collectively to the people, and clinging to God's stronghold could mean to have faith with him. The result is peace with God instead of the battle that's mentioned back in verse 4. That's one interpretation here. Mountain stronghold. This is a word here that Hallett points out as a mountain stronghold, a place of refuge, a secure fortress. It has specific symbolic meaning for the temple, and that could make a lot of sense here. But it seems to be that we are saying that as the Lord goes through and burns out the thorns and the briars, someone is going to be clinging to his mountain stronghold and making peace with him. Now, it's not quite a chiasm that we have in these two verses, but it's also not an exact repetition either. Some translations put these two lines as an exact repetition, but it's not. I've put it here so that it matches the word order in the Hebrew. And so you have this, he shall make peace to me, peace he shall make to me, which, interesting, but it doesn't form any particular pattern that I can point to as being anything that's common. And then we ended up here with verse 6, the coming, and we have to insert the word days here because it just simply says the coming without anything more on it. And so we assume he means the coming days. The coming days, Jacob shall take root, he shall blossom, Israel shall flower, and fill the whole world with produce. So we still have this idea of the vineyard, and we have in this coming time, this future time, that Jacob and Israel are going to be the plants of the vineyard that will blossom and bring out this fruit. And we should note that, what follows seems to lose any agricultural theme, and so this seems to be the end of this section. We move on from the agricultural metaphor onto an entirely different metaphor with verse 7. But this seems to wrap up this next section of Isaiah chapter 27. And so that'll wrap up our video. Please like and subscribe and ring the bell and share this with your friends so that more people can see it and we can grow the channel. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.